start recording now. Great. Well, again, good morning, everybody. So my name is Ryan Lents. I'm the director of the Office of Human Dignity and Solidarity for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I've been in that role for about 4 years now. And for those who may not be familiar, our Office of Human Dignity and Solidarity is our justice, life, and peace office for the diocese. So we have a number of different initiatives and justice efforts that are organized out of that office. And the Catholic Campaign for Human Development is certainly one of our core ministries, in addition to things like Catholic Relief Services. We have a really robust immigration ministry program that many of you probably have had a chance to work with. Our Care for Creation efforts come out of that office, as well as our Respect Life efforts and some of the racial justice programming that we've been trying to promote, as well as peace circles. So real pleasure to be with you all. And what we really would like to do to start is to create a space to introduce ourselves to one another. I realize many of you may already be familiar with one another's work, but we'd really like to just hear a little bit about what you've been working on, and referring to the agenda there that I attached in the chat. In addition to describing your organization and your work, would really love to hear some stories about what you're most proud of in terms of what you've been able to accomplish in this past year. And knowing that we've been living through a really challenging reality over these last several months, what's giving you energy? What's giving you hope despite the many challenges that we're facing right now going into this next year? In the interest of time, I would say if we can kind of keep our comments to just a couple minutes apiece, to make sure that we have time for everybody to share. We are a bit of a smaller group today. There were a couple of groups that looks like may not have been able to have joined. So we might have a little bit of flexibility with time. And before we jump into kind of our group sharing, I also want to introduce Sister Julia Walsh. She was able to join us this morning. She is going to be our CCHD intern in the year ahead. And so she'll have a chance to work with all of you. Sister Julia, could I invite you to just introduce yourself and share a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Hi, good morning. I'm a Franciscan Sister of Perpetual Adoration, and I'm living in Bronzeville. I don't really know what to say. I think I'm starting August 1st in the role, and I'm looking forward to all the things that I'll learn and all the ways that I can assist any of you. I have a lot of side ministries, so helping out at the CCHD mission is going to be one of my many endeavors in the coming year. Is there anything else, Ryan, you think I should be telling people?
Whatever the spirit is moving you to share.
Okay. I really love the woods, and I miss my family in Iowa right now, and I'm disappointed about the fact that they're not allowed to come to Chicago to visit me. So we have a lot to lament and pray about, and work hard to change together. How about that?
Thanks, Sister Julia. Well, so I guess I'm wondering if we could do this morning, since we are a bit of a smaller group, is if we could just maybe kind of invite one another in through mutual invitation. So again, if you could just start by introducing yourself, telling a little bit about your organization. Again, kind of what are some things that you were really proud of in terms of your accomplishments in the past year, and also what's giving you energy coming into the next year. And then as you wrap up, if you could just invite somebody who hasn't had a chance to come in yet to speak, that would be great. And I can kind of be a note keeper and make sure that we get everybody in. So I would love to invite in Leone.
Thank you. I was worried because I'm right next to you, so I thought, oh, he's going to pick me. So my name is Leone Jose Bicchieri, and I'm the founding executive director at Working Family Solidarity. We began about a little over 4 years ago now, 4.5 years ago. And our mission is to unite low-income families in 7 or 8 Chicago neighborhoods. Our main office is in Pilsen, but we don't work primarily in Pilsen. We work in Pilsen, North Lawndale, Little Village, back of the yards, Englewood and West Englewood, Gage Park. So some of the sort of near west side, near southwest, and a little bit into the south side, not southeast. And we're trying to unite families to work together for equitable development. So I'm sitting in Peterson right now, and as you all know, probably 10,000 Latino families have been pushed out of Peterson because of the rising costs. And everyone knows, I think over 200,000 African Americans have been pushed out of Chicago in the last 15 years. So we work primarily with African American and Latino families. The majority of our board are African American. We started a board with all African American and Latino members, some European American advisors, and so on. And we may have European American people as well on our board, but we wanted to really show our community that we have all it takes to change our situation. So we focus mainly on jobs and housing. So we don't want to be a jack of all trades, but I have a long history of labor work with unions and sort of community groups, and we've learned a lot about housing laws. So we're trying to link jobs and housing. So instead of just fighting hard for a contract or a community benefits agreement, which I've done over the years, so you win a campaign, you get slightly better wages for low-wage workers in a factory in Chicago, and then 2 months later, their rent goes up by $500 a month. So what did we gain? And you all know this, right? So we just wanted to really kind of push the labor movement to think about housing as a human right, so that our fighting for worker rights kind of means something, and vice versa, really talking to housing people and saying, look, you need to fight for the family's right to more and better jobs so that we push this together and gain some basic stability. We focus a lot on racial unity dialogues. I won't go into that now so I can finish up quickly, but we do a lot of racial unity dialogues, but not like a fakey surface level one where we sort of all declare ourselves united and we all love each other. If I can be really bold right now, I'm going to say we don't love each other. And so it's kind of good to just kind of start there. Blacks and Latinos were trained since a young time to see each other as competitors for scarce resources. And so we kind of have to start with that reality and have a good spirit, but be honest, talk with each other about our frustrations within our races and ethnicities and between them, and really trying to get to the kind of solidarity that we can see working with people of other races and ethnicities actually benefits me and my family in a very concrete way. So that's what we're striving for. Of course, we haven't perfected it, but we love working on that intersection of jobs, housing, and racial unity. And I'll finish here by saying that I think in the last year, we've been really happy about a lot of things. In the last 6 months, we've had a certain amount of sort of media coverage and also invitation to be on a lot of panels at universities and stuff before COVID-19 hit and then after March as well. So that felt good. Like people have recognized over a few years, we've begun to be effective. We have a lot more to do and we need to work a lot better, but that kind of felt good to get that kind of, people looking to us for what we think and what our members think. And in the coming year, I think what I'm hopeful for is, I'll be real honest, not being able to be out on the streets has been very difficult for us. I'm an old style dinosaur organizer. I want to be with people. I want to talk with people. I want to feel what they feel. And not being out there at first was depressing. It was devastating. But I'm hopeful that we, and it feels like other groups, and maybe today this is part of that, right? It feels like people are really trying to adapt to the virtual work, but also kind of preparing for, hopefully in a few months, being able to be out, in the streets like we were before and in houses and stuff like that. So I'm really hopeful, and I look forward to get to knowing all of you a lot better.
Thanks, Leone. Would you like to invite somebody to go next?
Yes, I will. I'm going to continue in the easy linear thing, and I'm going to invite Amy.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Totsch. I'm the lead organizer for United Power for Action and Justice. So we are a Cook County-wide organization of member religious and civic institutions all throughout Cook County. And the work that we're primarily focusing on with our CCHD focus is working in North Lawndale as well. And working with our member institutions there, are primarily related to the creation of housing. So in the last year, the thing that I think our collective group is most proud of, we did an action with the mayor in September, which seems like 1,000 years ago now. But we did an action in September with 1,251 people in North Lawndale, and asked for the mayor's commitment to work with us around 3 key issues of our focused agenda, which was reducing the incarceration for people with mental health concerns and increasing de-escalation with police. And then the second thing is building housing. So we want to build 1,000 homes for that are affordable to working families on the south and west sides. And then the third area was increasing gun safety and seeing that change. So we got her commitment on those 3 fronts. And this year, I think I'm most hopeful that we've learned how to adapt in these last few months. And so I feel confident going into this next year that we'll really be able to focus. We've got some good progress on the first phase of our housing effort. And so I'm looking forward to getting that going. And we have a really good, solid team of leaders that are focused and excited about that. Good to see you all and look forward to learning more about each of you. And I'll call on Catherine next.
Hi, it's great to see everyone. I am probably maybe one of the newest people in this group. My name is Catherine Hegarty. I'm with Community Renewal Society. I'm the manager of development and communications. I started in April amidst the pandemic and the shutdown. So as I had said earlier, I have not been to the office and I have not met anyone in person yet. Everyone's been virtual for me, but Community Renewal's got a long history though, nearly 140 years of working with immigrants early on, working with the civil rights in the 60s, and now working in the areas of police accountability, restorative justice, housing and economic development. And we work by engaging individuals and congregations all around the Chicago metropolitan area. So we're not just in the city, but we're in the suburbs also. We focus sort of on the disparities. We did some town halls on how the COVID-19 disproportionately impacted Black and Brown communities. And to bring light to that, we brought speakers in and did those. Those were pretty successful in May. We've also launched some healing circles, some racial healing circles, and we're trying to bring those out to our congregation. So there's a lot of new initiatives that we're working on, but we take our lead from our congregations and our membership and to see what they're interested in, what they want to work on. We have a community organizing arm, and we have a policy arm also that works on state and county legislation. We're working on the use of force task force with the mayor about police accountability. I'm pushing for a civilian oversight commission. We also had a just housing initiative passed, and we're working on getting information out to landlords and people about what does that mean, and removing some of the barriers to housing and education and employment of people, returning citizens. So those are our platform issues that we're working on. And although we have a fairly small staff, we engage a large group of churches and volunteers. We have over 50 churches and 1,000 or so volunteers from those churches. So I'm excited to be here. It's first time writing grants for this organization, and really appreciate the support. But CRS itself has had a long history with Catholic Campaign. And I am going to go on to Fran.
Morning. Thanks, Catherine. So I'm Fran Tobin, and I'm, excuse me, representing the Alliance for Community Services. So the Alliance is a grassroots coalition of people with disabilities, seniors, poor people, with frontline workers in public service. So the Alliance is a worker community collaboration where frontline workers in public service, whether it's human service caseworkers at Illinois DHS or city colleges, adult educators who teach ESL classes, are working with the folks that they provide services to directly. And so those two groups working together, outside of silos, can learn from each other as peers and address the many issues that are focused on both of them. So as a union community alliance, we do work here and there as needed around worker rights and like getting fair contracts for the folks that are part of our coalition. But the main work that we do as a coalition is focused on improving and expanding access to public services, whether that's stopping the decimation of the adult ed program and ESL classes at Chicago City Colleges, or not enough staff in human service offices so that the waits are long, or horrendous computer glitches that cost tens of thousands of people their Medicaid and their food stamps, or a range of those kinds of issues. It's hard for me to think about the past year before COVID, to be honest. It just feels like that was a different world. And over that time, working on the fair tax, which I think several people here are also doing, was one of the things. We had several different training sessions, and we had a few community forums on the fair tax, and connected that to the need for expanding access to services. We had several different actions around some of the Trump administration's threats to food stamps and Medicaid. Once COVID hit, and we've worked a lot, I should say, on reopening the access to public mental health clinics in Chicago as part of that work. So, since COVID hit, we've really been focused on the constituencies that are in our coalition, obviously being really hard hit. And so in response to our folks, especially the people with disabilities that are really key and central part of the coalition of the Alliance, we've been looking at access to basic PPE for people that are living independently. Our coalition the Alliance has been part of pushing for expanded ability of people to live by their choice independently, to have fuller lives rather than institutions. But the rampant, infections and deaths within institutions has taken up a lot of our time and focus lately. So we've been working on actually developing a new coalition specifically to address the idea that, yes, what's happening with COVID for many sectors is ripping the lid off of injustices of many sorts that are just so much harder to ignore. We all knew they were there and have been working on it, but now it's like just that much more stark. And so part of what we're looking at in the immediate term is to really look to get the state and other levels of government to pursue emergency action to decarcerate people in these institutions. That's the kind of environment it's been called a petri dish for COVID. And so obviously the infections and deaths have been huge in that sector. So that's the kind of work we do. I mean, the main thing is that these two constituencies, consumers of services and providers of services, often are in silos. And so this is part of connecting them in a way that as peers, we can, be stronger together, whether it's union members or folks that get their health care through Medicaid. So thinking about the last year and what we're proud of, I guess, I mentioned a few things that we've been doing that I thought were very good. One of the specific accomplishments was a 3-year campaign that we just won last year to stop caps on services for people with disabilities living at home with their PAs. So they had imposed a cap on how many hours a PA, a personal attendant, could work. It was a huge struggle. was both a worker struggle and a consumer struggle. And it was a good example of how those two sets of people that in some parts of the country are actually kind of at odds, but here we were able to help bridge that gap and have a united campaign and got those caps on the amount of hours that a PA could work lifted. So that was it was a pretty big fight, partly because it took so long to win, but and it has a huge impact on quality of life for folks that depend on PA services. I mean, I am kind of hopeful around the future. I mean, I think everyone around this, on this meeting is doing great work. And I think that I've seen in the pandemic, people that are not typically talking the way many of us do about really rethinking meaning of life, what's really important, how do we actually connect to people, how do we put people first. Many of those in charge, especially at the national level, have clearly not adopted that viewpoint, but I see that as something that more folks are really starting to think about. And I certainly think that the work around the response to killing of George Floyd and the rest has been heartening. It's something that we've been playing a supportive role in the background, supporting CPAC and getting more of our member groups and members of our member groups that haven't been paying that much attention to that as an issue to engage around CPAC. We also provide some support around the community benefits agreements campaign on the South Side and things like that. So I'm hopeful that there's such good organizing. There's great leadership from especially from younger folks, and I think that with much struggle bodes well for where we're going as a society. So I'll call on Juan Cruz.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Juan Cruz with Communities United. We are a community-based organization. We have been around for well over 20 years. And we're a survivor-led organization. We've been, really focusing our work in a lot of leadership development and working with our leaders to shift the narrative around survivors and really supporting and doing a lot of the work that many of you are currently involved. Pushing for preservation of affordable housing, preventing the displacement of our communities, and working with our leaders and survivors to transform our systems, right, and the criminalization of our communities, and shift away from criminalization towards restorative justice and systems of support. Like everyone, anything prior to the pandemic, it seems years past. But something that I'm very proud of the work. Obviously, I'm proud of the work that a lot of our leaders are leading. But last year, and not just last year, but over the years, we have done a lot of work to bridge our communities. Bridge the immigrant, the Latino community, and our Black communities. And when the pandemic hit, and a lot of the and the uprising started. There was a lot of there was news on the news, right, that there were tensions between our communities. But something that I was very proud of is that we had a leadership meeting, right in the middle of the uprisings, and when there's after the riots happened, and I was very proud to hear our members really, and our Latino moms, we're on this conference call, and so our black leaders were sharing how, they had just gotten this text message, right? That, oh, I can't go down Cicero Avenue because they're attacking, black people on Cicero, right? And our Latino moms being able to talk about, how they felt, right? And kind of, decided to, we need to organize in the communities and really have these dialogues, right? Because while a lot of our members that are involved in this work, through the relationships, kind of going to what Leonel said, right? Leonel said, that it's through the relationships that we have, we have facilitated a space for relationships to happen, for these deep level relationships between our members to happen, that they understand, right? They understand the struggles, they understand, but something that, everyone shares, like, well, how do we, kind of continue to expand that so that, our relatives and then our cousins that might not have been involved in this work and have that analysis, how do we establish those dialogues so, they can come and understand. But I was very proud to hear a lot of that analysis coming from our leaders, and some of them, they're even talking about, like, I need to sit down and talk to my husband about this, right? Because that was one of the proud moments to see kind of it was a very challenging time, because we were seeing in the news, right, on social media, what was going on, but then again, like, be reminded of how the work has created these leaders in our community that are ready to take action, right, and even challenge their own community, right, around their own biases. And another proud moment this year is our young people. Our young people have been, organizing around, and the Segura prison pipeline for decades. The uprisings really shone a light on this, and there's unprecedented support for this movement at this moment. And our young people have been front and center on this fight. I'm just, this is a great moment in time for our young people. They got 3 board members to, vote to remove police from schools and shift those funds to restorative justice. That's something that, last year, 2 years ago or last year, wouldn't have been, imaginable. I was really proud of that. A lot of our young people have been, doing amazing work to push this issue forward. And that's what drives, that's what gives me hope. What gives me hope is that, our communities have experienced, everything that we're seeing in the pandemic is kind of an amplification of what our communities were already facing prior to this. And, it's just, that energy, to continue fighting. So that really gives me hope that our young people being on the front lines, there's a lot at stake, in the next few months, right? So, despite the challenges of social distancing and the limit kind of on the groundwork, we're adopting and the energy that our members have to continue to move this work forward, despite, the challenges of actually being with one another. But looking forward to see how we transform our city and state, as we work through this pandemic. And how about Cris?
Thanks. My name is Cris Pope, and I do some development work for St. Agatha Catholic Church in North Lawndale. And the church has been doing restorative justice work for the past like 8 years or so as part of the restorative justice hub that they created there. And then they created the restorative justice court, community court, like about 3 years ago. So the idea is that we can bring peace and lower violence and lower incarceration rates in the community by working through restorative justice techniques, like starting from the level of homes, churches, community organizations, the schools, the justice system. So the RJ staff do weekly circles in Cook County Jail for men that are about to get released, and then mentor them when they come out of jail. They do them for parents whose kids are in the juvenile detention center, in some local schools, in the community. They facilitate all the repair of harm circles for the restorative justice court in the community. So that basically that means they go through the process with the person that has got some charge against them and the victim and community members to create an agreement so that that person can basically make amends for what they did, but also get support from whatever they need in the community. So that's the kind of regular work that goes on all the time. Oh, there's also a parent coordinator. She works with groups of building different groups of parents around the community to organize around issues. They started an after-school program. And one of the big sort of victories in this past year was that after 3 years of work, got the city to open a mental health clinic in North Lawndale that serves the whole west side area, you know, after they were all closed down years ago. I guess what gives me hope is the stuff, you know, as everybody was saying, all the sort of COVID challenges have been really hitting the communities hard. And, you know, North Lawndale, like everywhere else, like lots of other communities, there's a lot of poverty, a lot, you know, kids couldn't access school, people were losing their cell service because they couldn't pay the bills, so they couldn't stay connected to anything. And so our staff has been really scrambling to kind of maintain those connections, because all of our work is really based on kind of building those relationships and keeping those support networks between people in the community in place. But there's also, I think, been some really good things that came out of it. After George Floyd was killed, there was a march organized. There became a lot of tension when a lot of the rioting started between North Lawndale and South Lawndale, Little Village, between the Black and Latino communities over there. And so the two Catholic churches organized a Moms March in support of Black Lives Matter in the community. And the RJ staff has been really concerned that they're losing a lot of their kids that they've been working with kind of back to the streets because they don't have anything to do. And so they've been organizing kind of weekly bike rides through all the high violence spots in the community, and have been having tons of people come out either to ride or to kind of appreciate the fact that they're sort of creating some more hope in people in areas of the community that have been really, really hard hit. And so like they had a Juneteenth bike ride that had over 1,000 people that participated in it. And then I guess the biggest thing that's hopeful right now is that the RJ staff are all people that have lived in the community forever and have had their own experiences with gangs and prison and the justice system. And so they have kind of deep roots and respect and trust in the community. And they were able to pull together a meeting of leaders from 7 different gangs to talk about, like, instead of fighting each other and tearing up our community, what do we want for our community, and how can we come together around those things? So there was agreement at that meeting, and then the alderman heard about it and had the RJ staff talk to the mayor, and she's enlisted the help of Arnie Duncan to come in, and so anyway, they're putting together a plan for violence prevention for the community that we're hoping then we can leverage the resources that we would need, because really when we talked to them, it was all about, we just want opportunities to get jobs and things like that, you know, that they were all sort of looking for the same thing. So I guess that's the thing that we're feeling most hopeful about right now for the work in the neighborhood. Let's see, who hasn't gone? Xochitl.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So my name is Xochitl Espinosa. I am the director of the Co-op Ed Center. And we are a newly formed organization. When I mean new, I'm talking about a couple of years that we founded the organization. And our goal is to support and develop work cooperatives in communities of color. So for those that do not have heard maybe the term of cooperatives, might not be sure what they are, worker cooperatives are businesses that are owned and controlled by the workers. And so we've been, like I said, in existence for a couple of years, but we, in reality, our year of true operations was this last year. And so we set out to ourselves to give us at least, 3 to 4 years to build our organization, but also to start, developing our program and testing our curriculum. So what we do is we do training, technical assistance, and then we look for resources for the groups that want to build worker co-ops. I mean, that's where we're heading. And so this year has been just amazing for us to go from just basically an idea into like really seeing it happen and being implemented. So it's really great to see the work, sort of the achievements that we have done. But and I guess for us, one of the most the proudest moments that we had, we began testing our curriculum last year with a group of women who wanted to build a cleaning cooperative. And so one of our, I think for me, has been just really proud of hearing them tell stories about like the jobs that they're getting. They're now getting contracts. These are women, some of them undocumented, that are now, making $25 an hour, and they're the ones like dealing with the, there's no middleman, right? They're the ones dealing with the what's called the customer, and they negotiate the terms. And so for me, just seeing them able to really have income coming in, and then realizing like, oh my God, it's been a lot of work, but now we're actually getting, we have jobs, and it's not just any jobs, it's our own business. So I think for us, just seeing that that's really the fruit of our work. And obviously it has not been easy, and this process is not easy at all, but I feel that gives me a lot of hope and just a lot of inspiration, right? Because that's what we want to see. We want to make sure that people are getting jobs, but also becoming leaders and able, like I said, to negotiate on their own terms, what it is that they want to, what contracts they want to get and what they don't. And so it's really powerful, I'd say. And then like everybody else, I think something that we're hopeful about is that, like everybody else, I think COVID has really brought up a lot of challenges for a lot of folks, but also with challenges come opportunities, as everybody's describing. And for us, we're seeing a rise in interest in worker cooperatives. So we've been, you know, we've been getting emails and calls about like, hey, can you do some virtual trainings? People, because now, you know, folks are out of work. We don't know if those jobs are going to come back. And so, you know, people are, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do next. So I think that if before worker cooperatives were something new, or, you know, we're not getting enough attention, we got it now. And so I feel that this is a really important moment for us to be able to really build capacity and do the work. We just had a few, you know, we've been having a few virtual trainings with different groups. And our virtual trainings have been, you know, over 35 people every time we have them. And we're focusing on the Black community, and we're focusing on the Latinx community. So just seeing the interest, we're just very hopeful that this year is going to be a game changer, you know. And one of the things that we are trying to organize this year is, because we already know that there's already some work co-ops in development. They're in different stages, but there's definitely already some that are working. And so what we want to do is convene them to come together, because we understand that although, you know, there's been some highlights on the worker cooperative movement and policy last year. You know, there's a bill that passed recognizing worker co-ops, and all that it's been going on. But one of the things that we have not seen is that worker cooperatives are not owners. The worker owners from the different cooperatives are not necessarily meeting one another or connecting, you know. And I feel that for us, it's just a rich pool of resources and knowledge. So one of the things that we're planning to do in the fall, most likely will be virtual, is a worker cooperative convening. And the idea, like I said, is to bring in those folks that are in development or interested in worker co-ops with the other more advanced worker cooperatives to share stories, best challenges, ideas, and resources. And we think that that's actually going to really help us build this sort of ecosystem that we've been trying to build together with our partners. So yeah, we're very excited about this year, and very thankful to be receiving the funding from CCHD. That goes a long way. Thank you so much. And so I'm gonna call on Michael from CSPL Action.
Thank you, Xochitl. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. I've been having Wi-Fi issues all morning. So my name is Michael Okinczyc-Cruz, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Coalition for Spiritual and Public Leadership, CSPL for short. We're a faith-rooted community organizing coalition. We're about 3.5, 4 years old. In 2017, in the western suburbs of Cook County, our office is in Maywood. We work primarily, we do community organizing work, leadership development, but also spiritual and theological formation. Our work is grounded in the Catholic spiritual and theological tradition. So, you know, we do a lot of traditional organizing training, but we also incorporate workshops like discernment in organizing to tap into many of the spiritual and religious motivations that undergird the drive that a lot of our members have to do this work. And so we work with Catholic institutions, but also non-Catholic institutions. A lot of Christian churches and non-religious institutions work with us as well. So we're Catholic in a sense with a lowercase c, if that makes sense. There are three main areas of our work. Campaign-wise, we focus on immigration, violence prevention, and economic justice. Over the last year, I would say some of the things that we're most proud of is our work at the onset of the pandemic in March. We organized a campaign and we engaged several local elected officials in our region to support us, but to urge Governor Pritzker to reopen 3 hospitals that had been closed within the last 2 years, there are many cases throughout the country in which hospitals are bought out by private equity firms, and they end up closing these hospitals, and they're mostly in poor, lower income, Black and brown communities. And so we organized and we pushed the governor in March and April to reopen Westlake Hospital, Vibra Hospital, and Metro South. Westlake is the one we're nearest to. It's in Melrose Park. Melrose Park, for those who know, is predominantly Latinx. But next to Melrose Park are Maywood and Broadview, two predominantly Black communities with growing Latinx populations. So Westlake is now a COVID treatment center. And so that was one thing that we're very proud of coming out of the last few months. The other is we've done a lot of work, and we've worked closely with Xochitl and the Co-op Ed Center in terms of our particular focus. We work at CSPL to incubate worker-owned co-ops as part of our economic justice work. So one end of that focus on our part is the incubation of worker-owned co-ops that are 100% owned by the workers. So while we incubate, we don't receive $1 of the funding that or the revenue that the worker owners generate through their work. So we've incubated over the last 2 years 2 worker-owned co-ops. One is a catering company, Living La Fiesta, and the other is another cleaning company as well, LSG. And one of the things that the worker owners came up with on their own and that we've gotten behind them to support is the catering company, Living La Fiesta, had been doing very, very well prior to the pandemic. We use them for every event, training, workshop that we conduct. We don't order from Subway or Pizza Hut. We work with the cooperativa to support the workers and to highlight to our members the various institutions, parishes, universities that we work with, that they need to leverage their economic resources to support these models of cooperative business. And so with the pandemic, the catering business really took a nosedive. And so the worker owners and CSPL, we worked with them to shift from catering to homemade face mask making. And so we organized donated clothing in order to make these face masks. And the worker owners at Living La Fiesta have sold over $10,000 worth of face masks in the last few weeks. And so all of this, every dollar has gone to the worker owners. There's 10 Latina women, all of them immigrants, who've made income during this period of time because of that work. So in addition to focusing on the incubation end of it, we also work to engage leaders in economic justice campaigns, traditional organizing work to change policy, and worker owners are involved in that work too. It's got to be both about building a business model that they're at the center of, but also organizing power to shift economic policies that make it difficult at times for worker owners to thrive in this exploitative economy. Our immigration work, it's been intense over the last year or two, obviously with everything going on in the country. But one of the things we're proud of is in addition to a lot of local work, we felt it was important to protest nationally what was happening, particularly at the border. So we took 75 people from CSPL and we went down to El Paso. We went on a pilgrimage that lasted about a week in total. We brought 2 charter buses, and the 75 people that traveled with us, most of them younger people in their 20s and 30s, we took a 3-day trip down, had a 3-day trip back, and we were there for about 3 days to protest the Remain in Mexico policy, and then to participate in a conference with trainings and workshops. And so the last thing that I think we've highlighted and we've been doing over the last 6 months is our work on the census. The pandemic has tremendously impacted our ability to be at events and in front of people and communicating to people the importance of the census. But we shifted to doing phone banking. And so since mid-March, our phone banking team, we've made over 20,000 calls to households for the 2020 census, and that's been very effective. Although we're still seeing that it's tremendously difficult to reach communities without being in person. Looking ahead, I think, to be honest, it's going to be a very challenging year too. I mean, things are always challenging with the communities that we work with, but it doesn't feel like things are going to improve dramatically in the next year or two. It seems like things might get only worse in some ways in terms of this being drawn out, and with all the uncertainty in front of us. But you know, we are hopeful in a sense, with some of the work that we have coming up with voter engagement, with the upcoming elections, with the economic justice work we're pushing. But also I think mostly is the level of energy and enthusiasm our members have right now at this moment to continue fighting and organizing. So that's a bit about who we are and what we do. And it's great to be with you all. We're grateful for the support from CCHD, and it's an honor to be amongst you all who are doing incredible work. So thank you. I would like to pass it along to, I think everybody, Amalia.
Oh, here we go. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Because I'm on my phone because my computer has decided to shut down. All right, cool. My name's Amalia NietoGomez. I'm with the Alliance of the Southeast, or ASE for short. We are a community organization on the southeast side of Chicago, doing community organizing. And we've been working on basically two different things. We've been working on trying to make sure that developments benefit the local communities. And so that good development benefits communities by offering local hires, training, education opportunities, real affordable housing so people are not displaced. And environmental sustainability has been a huge thing that we've been starting to fight for, as a lot of toxic developments have been displaced from other parts of the city and are now moving to the southeast side. So we have been working on developments just in terms of racial, economic, and environmental justice. And so very excited that we have gotten some movement on some of this. So we have been in negotiations with one developer, North Point, and we have gotten them to not only hire locally, but also exceed their minority and women-owned business goals. And they have been good about trying to make sure that we are able to recruit businesses from the community. Our next step is to make sure that they take on a lot more of our local residents as employees. But we're very excited about that. They're in the process of doing 2 more buildings. And then and we're working on 4 developments that are fairly good, and 2 developments that are really bad that we are opposing coming in. So one of them is General Iron that had an explosion soon after the Little Village explosion or implosion the month prior. And the other one is expanding a toxic landfill on the lake, which we are afraid with all the climate change will affect all of our drinking water. So that's one thing we've been working on, is just developments in general. And then the other thing is violence prevention. The biggest thing that we have been doing as far as violence prevention is we have a youth leadership council that has been working on a number of things related to violence, including restorative justice practices, and making sure that there are support services for students in schools, especially around mental health and educational services. So those are the 2 big things that we have been working on. What I'm excited about this past year is that despite all the things that are going on with the epidemic, and our neighborhoods have been super hard hit, as I know everyone else's has been, but I've been really proud of the fact that our community has come together and we've been able to pivot as an organization and kind of take on some things that we haven't normally done to make sure our community gets through this. So I'm very excited about the fact that that we were able to hold a town hall meeting to release a good neighbor policy on what good development looks like on the southeast side as a region. We're very excited that we're able to put that together in spite of the epidemic. And in large part because of the epidemic, it happened the same week as the explosion of General Iron. So that has been very good. The Good Neighbor policy has been recognized by the city as part of their Invest Southwest project that they're doing in South Chicago. And then just very excited about the community coming together to have a march that really brought the community together. So it's completely youth-led, and I think that's one of the things that gives me hope for moving forward, is that there's new people getting involved and there's young people getting involved. And so the march that was planned in South Chicago and East Side was planned completely by youth. A lot of them were not attached to organization, and just having them be able to do the march. Our partners came out in support, and then we also provided assistance to youth in terms of planning it so it could go the way that they wanted it to. Very excited that the march happened in spite of the racial tensions that were happening in our neighborhoods, in spite of the ageism in our communities, because a lot of the people blamed young people for looting that happened. And so the fact that this is planned by young people and they would take no for an answer was awesome. And that the march happened in spite of a lot of gang violence that happened in the area, and even a counter protest that was supposed to happen by a white supremacist group. So really excited that, you know, the march happened and had about 400 to 500 people that came out. A lot of support, and it was so good and bringing the community together that the youth have actually planned a lot more actions since that one. So that's what gives me hope and inspires me, is that, you know, despite everything, people can move things and more people are getting involved. So that's it.
Thanks, Amalia. I saw another person joined in, Waltrina Middleton. I think you're muted.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm with Community Renewal Society. It's good to be with you all.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've kind of just over the last hour have been going around just briefly sharing a bit about our work, and you know, especially like kind of what are things that we are grateful for in terms of past work that has transpired over the past year, and also kind of what's giving us energy and hope coming into the next year. So I know Catherine was able to provide a little bit of an overview of CRS. Anything you'd like to add from your own perspective?
Yes, well, Catherine is one of those inspiring things. We're so excited to have her on our team and to welcome her to Community Renewal Society. I myself just completed my 1-year anniversary as the new executive director for the organization. So it's really good to be back in Chicago, a place that I consider home. But at the same time, arriving here right in the midst of a lot of transformation and changes happening in our city. So it's a challenging, but yet also an inspiring moment to be creative. And so what's giving me energy in life and inspiration is just the collective and collaborative work. Being able to be in solidarity with so many coalition partners throughout the city to try to bring about, excuse me, healing, advocacy and justice work, and being able to model for our constituents what the intersection of faith and justice can look like. So along some of the programmatic concepts that I'm sure Catherine lifted up, just being able to really connect to the root of CRS and try our very best to model faith and justice and beloved community. And so right now, people are really searching for that hope. And we're very honored and humbled to be able to walk in community, to be inspired as well. So thank you all.
Great. Thank you for being with us. I saw my colleague, Elena Segura, is now with us too. Elena, would you like to introduce yourself?
Elena Segura. I am very familiar with CCHD for so many years. My first 10 years in the Archdiocese was directly connected and still connected to this day because it's part of social justice. So I'm delighted to be here.
Great. Well, it's just it's a privilege to be able to hear all of you just share about your work. And what strikes me is just so many of the different kind of similarities and connections. And I mean, I know many of you are in relationship with one another. And I think, just despite the challenge that, we can't really gather in person the way that we normally would under ordinary circumstances, I think it's really gratifying to have spaces like this to hear of the good work that continues to happen and the adaptability and the creativity that organizations like you all have been able to take on in these challenging months. So just really want to commend you all and thank you all for your partnership. One of the things that as Elena and I were talking, preparing for this meeting, is that we always want to really emphasize how important it is that we see our CCHD grantees as partners, that we don't want this to be simply just a transactional kind of relationship where you fill out a really long and confusing and annoying application, and then months later you hear an outcome from us, but that we want to be in relationship with you. For those of you who are kind of coming into CCHD for the first time or are new to it, it might be helpful to know that CCHD has been around for 50 years. 2020 is the 50th anniversary of CCHD. And Elena can actually even share a little bit more background on this. CCHD got its start in Chicago. So Chicago has always been a very strong hub for the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. We have the most grantees by far of any diocese in the United States. And so we really see the many grantees that we have that receive both local funding and national funding as just an incredible asset to our community. And when we look at our Catholic social teaching, which is so much about lifting up the dignity of each human person, leaning into rights and responsibilities, raising up the rights of workers and the dignity of work, connecting to the notion of solidarity. It's Waltrina actually said it really beautifully. It's a wonderful witness to how faith and action come together. And so one of the challenges, one of the blessings that we have in our work is using CCHD as a tool to invite the broader Catholic community of faith to recognize that ours is a faith that calls us to justice and action. And so we really want to raise up your stories, raise up your campaigns, raise up your work as a really concrete way of bringing our Catholic social teachings into action. So I want to hand it off to Elena because I know she has a lot more that she can share about how that kind of takes root.
Very quickly, I know we have only 20 minutes or so, just short. And I think the intent of coming together to this grand agreement is very important. I know it's a fiscal, it's a process, yes, but I mentioned to Ryan and everybody who work with CCHD, just counting the years. I've been 20 years with our Archdiocese, very well connected with CCHD, of course, but really is for I think CCHD I consider a gift to the church, and it should be a prophetic voice. It should be also, I hope it is, those thorn that really makes you create consciousness in the church of what's the mission of the church. So I'm very privileged to be connected with this initiative for 20 years. It was really started CCHD in Chicago, which is amazing. This year, because of the pandemic, we didn't hear that much about the 50th anniversary. I know some of you who've been receiving funding for a while, you might have heard we have to do a little bit more work. But even we have all kinds of cardinals, as you know, in the country. Some were very open-minded, other ones who not necessarily. But to me, the amazing thing is that in Chicago, with a very conservative cardinal, it was Cardinal Cody, that started this ministry. Why? Because of the presence, the work, the movement that was created at a grassroots level in Chicago, particularly with priests. This was during the Vatican II. There was this whole idea of responding in a very concrete way, and the church was able to start and challenge that the church, the institutional church at the national level, needs to have an infrastructure to work and support the work of the grassroots for systemic change. Yes, we have to respond to immediate needs. We do that through Catholic Charities and immediate responses in the church, but they didn't have anything until 1979, a program that it's an official program that really helps to work, to partner with community organizations like you to look systemic change. I think that's a very important mission. The intent of the church was that, and we need to keep that always in order to remember that that's the mission of the church. And I think one of the very important things that happens in this process, like it went from Chicago to the whole country. Of course, is the USCCB program. But the amazing thing is how in 50 years, sometimes we forget where are we coming from, what's the mission. It's not just a second collection. We do have, some of you who are new in this process, we have one collection that's dedicated to CCHD. In a one-time weekend, we receive the funding, and that's the funding that we give to community organizations. So now, what a challenge do we have? The numbers of Catholics are decreasing, and also now the pandemic came. Are we gonna be ready for the second collection, which is always the second week in November, the third weekend in November, always? What's gonna happen? So there is the new ways or new challenges, and my prayer has always been, maybe through this new way, we need to think about, and I've been challenged to the national stuff for several years, and the time came, and now is the time to think about more creatively. That's what we're seeing. How could we still participate now in a new way? If we don't know what's going to happen in terms of people coming to the church, or in November we're going to have a second collection, and the role of the grantees, the community organizations, was to speak during Mass. That process is going to be different this year. We're going to talk a little bit more about what could be done in different way. But the key thing here, I'm going here, without conversion, would be just we always have this image of, when there is a conversion, the offering is the expression of how you see and what the transformation of your life, how are you connected with, in this case particularly with CCHD, that is an act of solidarity. I'm gonna be providing, I wanna be participating in systemic change through this collection that I'm participating. So if there's no such conversion, it would be just money received and whatever money that people may have. So that has been a major thing for me when I was working with CCHD. We did a lot of educational, creating consciousness in different settings within the church, outside the church, etc., etc. So, but during the second collection, or during this time when people participate in the collection, the funded groups always had an opportunity to share their stories, the very similar thing that you've done today. You share a story, what you can see systemic changes in the testimonies that you're giving. That testimony, it really, we hope, will transform people's minds and hearts and be able to express the transformation in the offering. And so the educational aspect is very critical, and we hope through whatever changes will happen here, I think that the opportunity is going to be more online. What could we do online? what could we use? How could we share your stories, these testimonies of transformation, of systemic change to people who are going to be probably, whether it's in person or through the parishes. So that's where we are right now, and very important to see that your role is very critical, even within these changes, because you have these stories, and how to share those stories, the format is a different thing. For some of you, we have a national grant and a local grant. We've been doing this for many, many years. And as Ryan mentioned, Chicago has the largest program. We have a full-time person dedicated and an intern who dedicated exclusively to support this program. Other dioceses don't have, and with all the changes that's happening in the Catholic Church, Chicago maintain faithfully, I think, at least, and is being seen by other dioceses. So whatever we do have, we have an influence in other dioceses. It's very important to keep that process of creating consciousness through education in the churches. And what's the church? I'm not talking about just the physical place. Now, I think we've been given an opportunity to see the church as a community. So that's how could we share your stories with them, for them to understand, for people to understand the role of solidarity in their faith, putting it into action. So those are very important, and just to say the local and the national grants, and I was thinking that maybe in this meeting we will have also the national grantees, and there is a whole process there after a period of time to apply for national fund is also has been always a process for Chicago. I think I'll stop there. Ryan, maybe there's more time for the other topics in the agenda, and I'll participate when time comes.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I think just in the interest of time, looking at kind of some other things that we just wanted to kind of briefly highlight in our time together. So one of the documents that I put in the chat was a tentative calendar for the grantees for this year ahead. And so, you know, we share that, and really just to say that as kind of Elena alluded to, we know that the promotion process for this year's collection is going to be different from anything else that we've encountered in the past. We have no idea which parishes will be open come November, what their capacity will be. And it's really just becoming really evident that the way that we've done the promotions of having, you know, grantees go and speak at different parishes along with members of our allocations committee and pastors, that model is probably not going to serve us well. And so, so, you know, we're very much in the process right now of kind of trying to determine our strategy. We've been in dialogue with folks from the National CCHD office and the USCCB and the Office of National Collections. We actually have a call with them today to just kind of see what their latest thinking is. And I know I'm going to be following up with our stewardship and development team, because there are second collections that the church does throughout the year, and many of them have already been impacted by COVID-19 and the closing of parishes. So, you know, I think one of the ideas that we talked about was that we will likely invite each of our grantees to record kind of a short message, you know, whether it's 2 to 3 minutes, you know, that would just kind of in a way capture some of the stories that you've shared here today, and really an invitation for our local Catholic community to join in this critical work. And so we'll be providing more details about what that will look like and what the format will be and all that good stuff. And then the other thing that the calendar shows is just also kind of the cycle of the year in terms of when application deadlines typically fall. You know, those of you who apply, obviously, who applied for the first time this year kind of got a sense of that timeline. Our allocations committee gathers 2 times typically, once in February, to kind of be broken up into teams that will review the proposals, and then we have a period of time about 6 to 8 weeks that we do those site visits. Now, you all know that the process of the site visits were really impacted this year because we were planning those out right as things were kind of getting shut down. So I appreciate those of you who had to kind of plan and then replan and then reschedule, and ultimately I know a lot of those had to happen virtually. And obviously, as many of you alluded to, it's just not the same to do a site visit over Zoom. But I appreciate your flexibility in that, and hopefully we'll be in a different reality come next winter and spring. But we've obviously learned a lot about how to kind of navigate that over these past several months. And so as deadlines come along, as we're looking for interim reports and applications and things like that, our office will continue to send reminders and emails to you. So you don't need to laminate this calendar and have it in front of you at all times. We'll be sending those updates throughout the year. But certainly, if any questions do arise as we kind of go through this year, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Elena, is there anything that I'm missing on my end? I'm kind of going through our agenda here.
If you think when you were talking about the best way to communicate, to share your stories would be through a video, and that we can use in social media and in websites and different ways we're gonna really use. But if you can start thinking about a theme, success stories, the impact, there's so many things. You've been working in housing, I know, in development, different topic. I know Leone has been working at the brown and black relationship for a long time, and now everybody's talking about that. That would be a wonderful stories to share. So if you can think about that, to me, that's the best way. Last night we were in a webinar. Just this morning, I got more than 2,000-3,000 people who participated in our little webinar. And there's so many ways to do it, and we want to reach to new audiences also. People, Catholics who not necessarily are coming to the church, but very supportive to social justice. What could we do? How could they participate through Catholic Campaign for Human Development? Many of young adults, they love Catholic Campaign for Human Development. When there is a way for them to participate with a collection, would be great. But we need to educate, we need to bring these topics that are current, that could touch, and also some other ones, we have some faithful ones. They're very faithful, donors that also they need to hear. We've been working in these topics that everybody is talking about, and just think about the theme and the educational perspective. We're gonna develop a guideline, and we'll be in touch with you with the guidelines, and we're hoping we probably are going to be meeting in September. That's what the idea. So you still have some time, and but we'll have more details on that. We just give you a heads up.
And I think to that point too, always tying in the promotion with education and formation. I think that we're going to be looking at what are some creative ways that we can bring forth a lot of the issues that you all have been talking about throughout our time together, whether it's around restorative justice, whether it's around affordable housing, around immigration policy, around violence, around systemic racism. That we actually had a chance to do a virtual forum about a month ago with a couple of our groups working on affordable housing. And this was an opportunity to kind of tie in some of these issues together. So I think that, we'll probably be looking to do some gatherings like that are really intentional about linking to CCHD and can be part of an extended kind of promotional season. Because again, we're not looking to just do it as a one weekend effort as we've done in the past. It's going to probably be more of a season of promotions that will kind of be a longer campaign. And I think the more stories we're able to capture, the more we'll be able to leverage those in creative ways, and certainly welcome your thoughts and ideas too. That can be a dialogue that we can have together moving forward. I don't know if I have anything else specific to kind of raise. I see we have about 5 minutes left. I'm wondering if folks have any specific questions right now that would be helpful to answer while we're still together. Okay, great. Well, any final thoughts, Elena or Julia?
Oops, can you hear me?
Yeah, now.
I just have a question. How many organizations are not part of didn't come today that, like, how many local Chicago groups receive these CCHD grants?
That's a great question. Let me look at my list here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious how big, how many different organizations are working on it.
Yeah. By my count, it looked like we had 9 organizations here. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, there are 9.
Yeah.
So 8, because the CRS is 1. There are 8 organizations, and then 7 actually, because Julia, I was just counting on you.
Oh yeah, I'm just Julia.
I think there were 2 groups that we issued grant award letters to who weren't able to join this morning. Maybe 3, actually. Yeah, I think there might be 3. And then as Elena mentioned, we also, so this is a gathering specifically for our local awardees. The national grant awards are going to be like the announcement for those are going to be sent out, I believe, tomorrow by the national office. So, while there's a number of things that our office kind of coordinates for both the local and the national side, like our committee reviews both local and national grants. The final decision on national awards ultimately goes to the USCCB committee that meets, and so they're accountable for sending out those notifications. And so just based on how the timing worked, I don't think it really made sense for us to invite the national grantees in, since they haven't been given notification about the status of their award yet. But we have a number of those ones. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 national awardees. So when you count everybody together, we have close to 30 grantees total in the city of in the Archdiocese of Chicago, which as we said before, is by far the most of any diocese in the U.S.
Yeah, I'm so excited. The work you're doing is incredible, and I'm thrilled and honored to be able to support all of you this year. So it was a true joy to hear everything, and I was looking at your websites while I was listening, and sort of just in awe with all the things that you're up to. So yeah, thank you everyone. I just want to
that's precisely that kind of response we hope to get with other people, who are going to be listening and watching your stories. There are a lot of beautiful things that are happening here. I believe there are a lot of, when Jesus was present, he always used parables. We have plenty of real parables here, right now, here and now. So thank you. There's a gospel is here, and how to share this gospel in that with other ones who don't know. We want that kind of reaction. Thank you so much for your faithfulness, for all the work that you've been doing. I know sometimes working with the Catholic Church, as Ryan said, it's not an easy thing, but just keep faithful there, and hopefully we'll. The idea is we are partnering with you, and how this partner is going to look like. Hopefully, will be in a renewal way of having connection with you. I'm glad that Julia is the intern, and she's going to be in touch with you very soon too. Thank you, and I'll be in this process until I always say, social justice is always part of our lives. It's who we are, and it's a joy to be able to be in this moment, which is a very critical moment for the church and even for CCHD. For my prayers, I hope the funding doesn't go down, even just keeping some place to give money to organizations like that. And I can do anything. I will try to do everything, whatever is necessary in order to get the funding to keep partnering with organizations like you. Thank you so much for what you do.
Great. Well, I see we are at time, and definitely want to be committed to letting you go on time. So again, thank you all so much for just the amazing work that you are all doing in the community, for your partnership with us, and we'll continue to be in touch as we move forward in this year together. So blessings to you all. Stay healthy and safe, and we'll talk soon. So
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
God bless.
Thank you. God bless.